Have you ever felt like your paycheck is doing all the work and somehow you still don't get ahead? It's an uncomfortable thought, but most people with steady, good jobs fall into the same simple spending mistake every month. It's quiet, it feels rational, and it slowly eats your future. Let me paint a familiar picture. Anna is 28, lives in a mid-sized European city, and just got promoted. Her after-tax pay is about $4,000 a month, a solid number for her age. She rents a one-bedroom for $1,200, she has a car payment for a newish compact SUV, $350 a month, her student loan repayment is $220, credit card minimums vary but say $80 on average, she eats out twice a week, that's another $200, she subscribes to a handful of services, streaming, a premium fitness app, cloud storage, about $60. She also likes to keep her wardrobe current. Let's call that $150 monthly. On paper, Anna seems fine. Her essentials are covered, there's even a little left over. So when she gets her raise, say an extra $400 a month, she upgrades. A slightly nicer apartment, a more frequent restaurant habit, a faster phone plan. Each change feels logical. Each one is affordable within the monthly budget. The problem is not that she's reckless. The problem is that she's trading future wealth for present status in small, systematic steps. Let's look at the math, simple, honest math that shows how small choices compound. Take that $400 raise. Anna adds $150 to her rent by moving to a slightly better neighborhood. She spends $100 more on dining out and discretionary shopping. She bumps her savings contribution by $50 and calls it a win. Net effect, she saves $50 extra but commits $250 more to recurring lifestyle costs. Now scale that over a decade. That $250 a month equals $3,000 a year. Invested hypothetically at a conservative 5% real return, $3,000 invested annually for 10 years becomes roughly $37,600. That's a meaningful nest egg, and it's lost because those dollars bought incremental comfort instead. But the cost goes deeper than what you would have invested. Lifestyle commitments create a new baseline. Rent increases, subscriptions renew, and social norms shift. When the next raise comes, the baseline has climbed, the pressure to match it climbs too. A single upgrade becomes an ongoing liability. That compact SUV, it's not just $350 now, it's insurance, maintenance, higher fuel costs, and elevated expectations about where you park, who you drive with, what neighborhoods you visit. Monthly choices ripple into future budgets in ways we rarely account for. Why do so many people with decent incomes make this mistake? The answer is more psychological than mathematical. First, there's status signaling. We're social animals. A nicer apartment or a newer car communicates, "I've arrived." That signal is loud and immediate. It gives social proof. It's also socially rewarded in day-to-day interactions. Colleagues compliment, friends nod approvingly. The reward system in our brain lights up, and the behavior reinforces itself. Second, there's the affordability illusion. If a thing fits in the monthly budget, we mentally mark it as affordable, and that equals permission. Affordability becomes a green light that ignores opportunity cost. We think in isolated line items. Rent is separate from savings, dining out separate from investment, instead of viewing the whole as one limited resource. That siloed thinking disguises trade-offs. Third, there's hedonic adaptation. That upgraded phone or apartment boosts satisfaction briefly. Soon, the new normal feels ordinary and the bar rises. To feel the same lift, you need a bigger upgrade, and the cycle continues. Let's put numbers on the lifetime impact using a slightly longer view. Imagine Anna continues increasing her lifestyle by $250 a month in net new commitments after each raise year after year. Over 15 years, that becomes $45,000 in recurring commitments, not counting inflation. If instead she redirected those $250 a month into investments, averaging 5% real returns, she'd accumulate roughly $66,000 after 15 years. And that's conservative. Higher returns or compounding earlier would widen the gap. Even more revealing is retirement math. Redirected savings grow with compound interest long after Anna retires. That $250 a month started in her late 20s could translate into a few $100,000 by retirement if invested consistently. The choice to upgrade now isn't just about comfort today, it's about how loud your money works for you decades from now. So, what's the hidden flaw in the system? It's not a single financial product or an evil algorithm, it's the default human response to increases in income. Spend a portion of it to raise your baseline lifestyle. The economy and marketers are built to accommodate, even encourage this behavior. Easy credit, targeted ads, and social norms all conspire to normalize upgrading whenever your income rises. The result is a stable-looking life with weakened financial mobility. Now let's shift perspective. How do financially intelligent people think differently, not because they're ascetic, but because they are deliberate? They frame raises as allocation decisions, not automatic lifestyle enablers. Before spending, they mentally divide new income into buckets, a portion for immediate enjoyment, a portion for long-term savings, and a portion for purposeful spending that aligns with priorities. The numbers are modest and realistic: 20% saved, 10% for pleasure, 70% to cover increases in essentials. The exact split varies, but the key is the decision before the action. They treat recurring costs like liabilities, not tokens of achievement. A new apartment isn't just a nicer space, it's a recurring payment that reduces flexibility. They ask, does this recurring choice buy long-term value or short-term validation? If it's the latter, they pause. They also use friction. Financially intelligent people make small structural changes that slow impulsive upgrades. Automatic transfers to investment accounts on payday, limits on the number of subscription services, or waiting periods before committing to larger purchases. Friction isn't punishment, it's a design choice that aligns impulses with long-term goals. Importantly, they don't avoid comfort. They prioritize experiences and purchases that yield durable satisfaction. Travel that teaches, a reliable dirt-cheap car that saves worry and time, a kitchen that encourages home cooking instead of premium restaurants. The difference is intentionality and measuring things by lifespan and happiness per dollar, not by perceived social value. Let's return to Anna, not as a cautionary tale to shame, but as a real person who can shift trajectories with small, rational adjustments. If she decides to keep her rent rise modest and redirects that extra $150 a month into investments, that's an actionable change that will compound. If she limits car-related upgrades and reallocates $100 a month into a retirement account, the long-term effect is disproportionate to the small sacrifice today. The point isn't to never enjoy your income, it's to recognize the pace and permanence of lifestyle inflation and to choose which upgrades genuinely matter. Treat raises like strategic inputs to your future, not automatic signals to match your neighbor. In closing, most people with good jobs make the same simple mistake. They let their baseline rise with their income without a clear reason. It's understandable, human, and encouraged by the world we live in. The practical response is quiet and steady. Make conscious allocation decisions, add mild friction to prevent mindless upgrades, and favor purchases that increase real, lasting value. No magic, no guilt, just clearer thinking about what money is for. If this perspective helped, consider subscribing for more calm, reality-based finance thinking. Thanks for watching.